Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Friday, November the 1st, 2024. Can you believe we are in November? And they say as you get older, the years go by faster and faster. Well, that is indeed true. But got to enjoy it while we're here. And I'm going to say I'm outside in the nice spring weather at the moment, but it's actually quite cool this morning. Just does not seem to know what it's going to do, this weather, but you've got to enjoy it while we're here. It's nice, fresh air and surroundings, all that sort of stuff. So we make the best of it as we can. All right, on to today's topics, and I'm going to start with our old mates at the boxing media. Now this week, I don't really get on. Well, I haven't really been on socials as much as usual lately. I've been a bit busy, a bit going on. But a thing came up on my feed the other day. Is that what you call it? The feed? A clip from Channel 9, and it was an interview with Jake Paul. Now, I get it. I understand. He's a big name. Is he a big name in? Is he a big name in boxing? Is he a big name on social media? I don't know. He's a big name in the world these days. However that happens, only in the current generation does that happen, when you've got someone who has no talent, ability, whatever, who's suddenly a superstar and is worth probably hundreds of millions of dollars. But anyway, and they did an interview with him, and about the Mike Tyson fight and blah 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 blah, and Carl Stefanovic's got to pretty much restrain himself for pretty much licking the screen that he's watching at the moment as he interviews Jake Paul. Really cringe sort of stuff. And as I said, I get that they've got to promote what's happening in the world, and Jake Paul seems to be the man. I doubt Mike Tyson will go on. If you remember from years ago, unless he's been on, I don't know, I don't watch Channel 9, but Mike Tyson was on there a few years ago, and I can't remember what it was for, and they did a real hit job on him, Channel 9. There was a female interviewer, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been that. No, it wouldn't have been Natalie Barr, unless that was Channel 7. So I might have that mixed up. But whoever it was did a real hit job on him, and he just clammed up, and I would say he probably promised right there and then never to come back on Australian TV, because it was all about his past and not really promoting what he was actually on there to talk about. And they went at him, and I wouldn't blame him. I can't remember what it was for, but I wouldn't blame him if he never came on Aussie TV ever again. But anyway, they interviewed Jake Paul, and through all the usual bullshit that he went on with about being the face of boxing and this and that, just the usual crap, it got me sort of thinking, where was the interviews with Jai Pattaya? Where has the interviews with Liam Paro been? I understand boxing's not a mainstream sport, but it just got me thinking, why do you think, I mean, we always talk about it on here, well, not on here, but social media or whatever it might be. A lot of people always ask me, why do you think that a lot of Aussies don't want to fight in Australia? Well, there's your answer. What would you fight in Australia for? Unless you're Tim Tszyu, of course. What would you fight here? You get barely any exposure. No one really gives you shit. It's just the token little grab here or there. They'll go to your press conference, and if you're lucky, you might get a bit of a spot. Well, you won't on the mainstream media, that's for sure. So you ask why the really gunfighters don't fight here. I'm sure they'd love to. The Jai Pattayas, the Sky Nicholsons, and all these types of fighters that are fighting overseas at the moment. Why would you go? Even someone like an Ebony Bridges. Everyone's got their own opinions of her, but she went to England because she became a superstar over there. Sky Nicholson's a star over there. Jai Pattaya's becoming a star. I wouldn't blame Liam Paro if he just fights overseas going forward. Why would you fight in Australia when no one gives a toss as far as the media goes? And even with our old mates Brendan Bradford and what's his name, Peter Bedell, and all those so-called boxing writers, where are they? I've seen, we did a little bit of a story after Jai Pattaya's win. We've had nothing announcing Liam Paro's world title fight. We've heard nothing about Dana Coolwell fighting on the undercard. I mean, wouldn't you even have thought that Carl Stefanovic on Channel 9 would have started, maybe done his research and said, I see there's an Aussie on the undercard. Do you know much about him? Now, Jake Paul wouldn't know anything about him, but just do your research. They just skim the surface here in Australia. That's if they get you one at all. And as I said, where's those boxing writers, Pete Bedell, Brendan Bradford, whoever it might be, with those stories about Liam Paro's next world title fight? And maybe, you know, what's going on with, you know, some of the other girls or guys on the world scene doing great things at the moment. And crickets. It's just very, very frustrating. I understand that the media has a deal with Foxtel and all Main Event and all that sort of stuff, and they've got to pretty much follow them. But come on, guys, this is a sport where it's not just no limit fighters that exist in Australian boxing. It's ridiculous. And we had, you know, 5 straight days of Tim Tszyu sob stories that were on the media. That's not Tim's fault, by the way. It was just everyone with their views about Tim Tszyu. You know, nothing about any other Aussie fighters at the moment. It's just frustrating. But there's your answer, guys, why the elite don't want to fight in Australia, or they would love to fight in Australia, but the reason they don't is they just get nothing. Absolute crickets. It is ridiculous. Anyway, there's my little rant for this morning anyway about the media. They just shit me and especially the so-called boxing writers. Do your jobs, boys. Don't just come out of hiding when there's a pay-per-view and you can get your head on TV, and you know, you can probably read all the other sports stories from some actual boxing journalists from around the world and get your little research and, you know, write a few notes and then get on there and pretend you actually know what you're talking about. Get out there and do it yourself. Go and talk to these guys. Go to their gyms. Interview them at the gyms. Do what a lot of the social media guys do. I mean, there's some really good reporters out there. You know, there's Rob Scheif from Before the Fight. There's Jay McAllister from his channel. You know, there's plenty of other really... Noonan Boy's probably the best one. You know, he's out there amongst it. He's pretty much... Noonan Boy's probably the guy that probably runs Australian boxing media behind the scenes, the social media side I'm talking about. You know, with his own channel, Australian Boxing Central, and gets overseas and actually gets to know the people, knows the fighters. And I'm sure there's plenty of others out there as well. But anyway, just my little rant for the day. Let's get on to some other stuff. Let me know your thoughts too, by the way. All right, it doesn't look like we're going to get Canelo and Eubank Jr., probably as we suspected. I did say in the last couple of days it looked like they were talking about it, and of course Ben Shalom, Chris Eubank's manager from Boxer Promotions. I think we've all known all along they're full of shit, that firm. I just remember back to the George Kambosos, Teofimo Lopez circus from 3 years ago when it took, about 2 years for the fight to actually happen, and so many delays and shit going on with them. So anyway, I just think he's full of crap. But so he's saying this week that it looks like negotiations are continuing and they're going to maybe fight in May, and it could be in England. Well, come on, Ben. Eddie Renesos, who takes care of Canelo, has come out and said, hey, that's just not going to happen. They had the chance in September and they blew it. As expected, they were difficult to deal with. They wanted too much money. They rooted him around. Canelo doesn't play that way. He's his own man that said, here's your deadline, take it or leave it. And they would have tried to probably renegotiate, got a few extra bucks, whatever it is, like the Chris Eubank way, which is why he hasn't had big fights in the past. And Canelo said, yeah, whatever. All right, we'll just sign Belunga instead, who would have been waiting there with pen in hand. Because you remember also back Eubank, there was talk that he was going to fight Triple G. Was it 2016, was it? Or 18, whatever it was. And again, tried to puff the chest out and play on his name, which he has no right to do, by the way, because he's done shit. His dad's is the one that made that name. He's done shit. So he did the same thing there, and guess what? They said, all right, don't worry about it, Chris. We'll give Kell Brook a call, and Kell Brook took it in 2 seconds flat. And okay, yes, it didn't end well for Kell Brook, but he got a big fight. He got paid very, very well. And Chris Eubank has wasted another 5 or 6 years. So it doesn't surprise me. But the word is that we might be looking at Christian and Billy, which I think would be a far better fight anyway. What a fight that would be. Now, I think he's far too raw for me to give Canelo like any real problems as far as being able to win the fight. I think his style, while he'll give Canelo some worries early, you just see those elite fighters like Canelo Alvarez, they don't get bombed away or bombed out like guys like Billy. They look great against lesser lights, and they come up against a class fighter like Canelo and sort of get found out. But I think it will be entertaining. And apart from Crawford or Benavidez, it's probably, I think, the best fight for Canelo out there. And then Billy's, he's earned his chance, so give him a crack. Eubank hasn't. So that seems to be the case at the moment. And just speaking of, what was I going to say there? Oh yes, and Billy, because that he's actually managed by, or promoted by Bob Arum, I think it is. Yeah, so Bob Arum was interviewed this week. Lost my train of thought there, sorry. So yeah, so Bob Arum has said that they're actually maybe, I think he might have even said they've started to maybe just tip or put the toe in the water as far as dealing with Canelo. And he said, I don't think he's ever worked with Canelo before, but really excited to do it if it does happen, and will certainly be open to working with the Canelo team. I know he's worked with PBC in the last few fights, but I'm pretty sure he's on a fight-by-fight basis. He can do what he wants. So Bob Arum has said, hey, if you want to fight our guy, then we're more than willing to sit down and negotiate. Just talking of Bob Arum, now I've got to be careful what I say here. But he had an interview this week, or it was a podcast or something, and I don't like to get political on this channel. I think everyone that watches Talking Boxing and knows me personally knows that my political sort of leanings. But I just saw Bob this week, and I just thought, Bob, not you too. Just, again, I'm not going to run the risk of offending half of you out there, and you'll make your own decisions about who you like in the political scene. And next week it's the election, by the way. Talking of course, Trump versus Kamala Harris, and I won't spend too much time on it, but I just thought, Bob, you've been around 93 years. At least I would have expected someone like him to probably know a bit better, to actually do his research. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to quickly go over it, by the way, because I know this is going to offend a lot of you out there. But in the podcast or interview, whatever it was, something come up about Puerto Rican boxers, and he was talking about how great Puerto Rico have been, over the years with the fighters, and then something come up about, and if Puerto Ricans and everyone out there that were half decent would be voting for, based on the comments by some comedian, they'd all be voting for Kamala Harris. And I thought, Bob, because what actually happened, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, there was a comedian who happened to be a Trump supporter, and he said that Puerto Rico was just a big country of garbage or something floating out in the ocean or something like that anyway. Well, Bob Arum has sort of used the forum, I suppose. Maybe he's out there campaigning for Kamala or whatever it might be, but he said, see, this shows you what type of person that Donald Trump is and what his values are. And I'm thinking, hang on, I don't recall seeing Donald Trump actually make that comment. What, he's being held to standard by what a supporter says? I mean, come on, that is just ridiculous. I don't know, again, I'm not going to get too much into it, but I just thought, Bob, surely you've been around long enough not to get caught up in that shit. I know, again, he's probably campaigning for it. Bob Arum actually did, if you can remember, you probably don't, back in 2016, he actually did a no Trump boxing card, and he had all Mexicans on there to highlight, how great Mexicans have been to the American culture and society and what they've contributed, all that sort of stuff, which is probably right. But he called it the no Trump card to highlight that. And what he sort of failed to realise is that I don't think I've ever heard sort of Trump say he doesn't like Mexicans. All he said was he wants them to be able to come into the country legally. So I don't know, again, I know I've probably already gone too far with all this, but I just thought, Bob, do your research, mate. I know you probably don't Trump, and I don't like Trump, and a lot of people don't. I get it, but to try and politicise it, all the Puerto Rican fans out there, the boxing fans, and people that maybe follow Top Rank and everything, to sort of influence them by saying this is the sort of person Trump is based on what someone else says, just because they happen to support Donald Trump. I don't get it, and there's so much of it going on at the moment, and I know it goes from both sides, but I just would have thought educated people like Bob Arum would sort of just know a little bit better. I don't know. Everyone will make up their own decisions in the whole thing, I understand that, but my thing's always been, I don't care whether you'll say, you know, you agree with me or you don't agree with me or you have your own thoughts. I could not give a toss, but at least do your research, guys. Just do your research and make up your own mind. Switch off mainstream news. That's all I'm going to say. Make your own decisions, and if it's differing to mine or analysis, that's fine. But I just thought Bob Arum would know a little bit better than to politicise something against a political candidate who didn't actually say anything. But he's made the most of it since, hasn't he? With all these garbage comments and all the rest of it. It's quite funny. But anyway, it's all over in a week. So for all of you that are still watching after my little rant there, not that it's a rant, it's just a comment, it's an opinion. That's all it is. Okay, it's just my opinion. You can have yours and that's fine. All right, so it's just my little opinion. For all of you still watching, give me your thoughts on it all. Well, maybe don't give me your thoughts. Let's just move on to some more boxing stuff. All right. Speaking of, I was going to say Bob Arum there. He's got Teofimo Lopez, hasn't he? Yeah, okay. So they may be talking, him and Oscar are talking about Ryan Garcia being next for Teofimo Lopez in April. I reckon that'd be a ripper fight, really good fight. I think it'd be definitely pay-per-view worthy. Well, they all are these days, aren't they, pay-per-views? But I think that would be definitely pay-per-view worthy. So if that does come off, I'd be wrapped with that. I'm going to just race through these there, guys, because I've rattled on a bit too long about the election. It's always the way, isn't it? The other one is, I'm very keen for this to see what happens here. Lawrence Okoli, now a former WBO cruiserweight title holder. He's, I think, the WBC bridgerweight title holder. He's actually moving to heavyweight at the end of the year. I'm really keen to see how he goes. It's just as a maybe a little bit of a guide on how our man Jai Patai is going to go. I know he's a little bit different dimensions than Jai, 6'5", I think he is. Probably carry the weight a little bit better, but I'm just interested to see how he goes. He's got a guy named Hussein Muhammad. He's going to be fighting. I think it's in December. So, yeah, interested to see how Lawrence Okoli goes there, and maybe if it's the catalyst for Jai Patai making the same move. So let's see what happens there. And one last thing, guys. With Halloween, sorry, I've just got some stuff written down here because I had to make notes because there's too many of them there. But with Halloween, just here, I know it was yesterday, but it is today in America, October 31st in America. Who was the scariest boxers of all time, and maybe who are the scariest boxers of the current day? So some of the names that were listed, and these are the obvious ones. This is where I want your opinion on this, by the way, but some obvious ones from the past. Mike Tyson, well, that's a given. George Foreman, 100% that's a given. Sonny Liston, probably another one. All heavyweights, these guys, but I've got some lighter weight guys there. Well, Jack Dempsey, you would probably throw it. Would you throw Jack Dempsey in there? Back in the day, I think he was quite fearsome, wasn't he? But the smaller guys, Roberto Duran probably comes to mind as one of the scariest fighters of all time. He was just an animal back in the day. He had those cold black eyes, and the way he looked at you, he wanted to kill you, and he was definitely feared back in the day. I would probably put in there Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Would you put him in there? I reckon back in the day he was quite fearsome as well. So we're going to throw Marvelous Marvin Hagler in there. Carlos Arate at bantamweight was a killer. I think he had 98% or something knockout rate or something. Just a brutal puncher. He was tall, rangy, great Mexican fighter. So you'll probably throw him in there as well. And there's one I'll put in there who a lot of you may have heard of, maybe not. There's a lightweight back in the day by the name of Edwin Valero. Now, he could have been anything. He had all his fights won by knockout. Unfortunately, circumstances in his life, he had a really troubled life and ended up committing suicide. But because I think it was his wife was murdered or something, I can't remember. He was the suspect and ended his life anyway, but he was a stone cold killer. So they're the ones from the past. The ones from the future, well, not the future, what are you doing, Lyndon? The present, I should be saying, the present. Let me know if you agree with this. I've probably got Naoya Inoue would probably be the top of the list at the moment as one of the scariest fighters in boxing. He's just a little madman, in a way. The other one I would probably have in there is Artur Beterbiev. I think he'd be quite scary to be in with as well. Just that robotic type of solid Russian. I'd probably have him there. So he would definitely be one of them. I'd probably have would you have Bam Rodriguez as a one of the scariest fighters? I don't know. He's a bit of a baby-faced assassin, isn't he? But you could probably throw him in there as well. The other one I've got is Bakram Murtazaliev. Well, I think after what he did to Tim Tszyu and the way he looks and the way he fights, I think he definitely would probably fit the bill as being one of the scariest fighters out there. And probably the last one, this is probably you know, up for argument, I suppose, but I think he would almost qualify as our man, Jai Pataya. You've seen the way he looks at fighters at the press conference and in the ring, and mate, this guy means business, no mucking around, no smiles, no nothing. He looks them down, and the way he looks at them, you don't sort of see other fighters who genuinely look through their opponents like they want to kill them. You just don't see it. They put on the fake sort of stare downs for the cameras and everything else, but Jai Pataya looks at him, you know, like they stole something from him, and yeah, I would probably put him in the classification of being one of the scariest fighters out there. But let me know your thoughts. I mean, I'm just sort of plucking a few from the past and the present. Let me know who you think down below as well. I've probably stated the probably obvious ones, but I'm sure there's probably plenty out there. So guys, put your comments down there. Maybe save the ones for the political thing. I probably shouldn't have probably included it, but it just got me thinking, Bob, what are you doing? But everything else, feel free to put comments down below, and I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow.